Good afternoon, everyone. We will be starting in a minute or two. Uh, so, okay, let's start. So, hello, everyone. Today, I'm with my colleagues, Jan, Jan, Mariana, and Seraphine. I'm Nupur. I'm a solution architect with GitLab, and I will be helping you go through this workshop today. Along with me, Jan will be helping me. Jan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, yes. Well, I'm Jan. I'm also a solution architect, team member of Nupur. Yeah, and I'm looking very much forward to this workshop with you all today.
Okay, coming back. Today we'll be going through this workshop. We have a wonderful team with Mariana, Seraphine, who will be helping us in answering any of your questions. So in case you are stuck, you don't know how to proceed, please put your questions in the chat and then somebody from our team can help you. Uh, so for today's session, we will be setting up a new public leaderboard for the new racing game Tanuki Racing. Here we will go through all the processes which you might see as part of the agile planning sessions within your organization. We'll be going through various scenarios and how you can use GitLab within those scenarios to plan your work ahead in GitLab. So for today, as a new PM on the team, your manager has tasked you in creating some issues, epics for the plan stage, and that's where we will be going forward with. So before we start, let's try to set up our lab so that we are ready and then we can proceed and we can try on things together. So with the lab setup, it's very important that you complete this lab setup for the hands-on exercise. This lab setup comes with an ultimate license. That means all the capabilities which are part of GitLab as part of project management, portfolio management that are enabled on this particular setup, and also the AI capabilities. So we will be using a mix of ultimate capabilities, AI capabilities to run all the features for today. At the end of the project, we will provide you instructions on how you can move the project which you create today into your own instance. Be mindful, your instance might not have ultimate or the AI capability, so you will not be able to replicate the same in your own namespace. So, first of all, we'll try to create our own group by using the invite code. We'll go through the process together and then we will go through how we can utilize GitLab for portfolio management. So, first of all, we need to go to the link below. Somebody from my team will put this link in the chat as well, so you can copy it and put it. Once you are there, you will be redirected to something like this. Here you have to go redeem invitation code, and then the invitation code will be provided by my team as well. It is shown in the screen, but somebody will put it in the chat as well. So you have to go on there, put your redeem code and provision training environment. Once you do this, then it will ask for your username. Now I have my username with me, but if you do not have your username, let's see how you can find it. So you have to provide the invitation code. Go to your gitlab.com account. This has been asked as part of the setup email which you have got. If you haven't created a gitlab.com account, you can go and try to create one now. Once you create a GitLab account, there on the left hand side, you will have your picture or avatar over here. If you click on that, you'll have your name and then at the red sign. So whatever is there after at the rate, that's your name. Please don't include at the rate. It's just the name. For example, here I used N Sharma, not at N Sharma. So be aware of that. Then in the username, put your GitLab username, which I just told you in the previous slide. And then once it is there, you will be navigated to this dashboard. Now, if you go to my group, then this is the test group which is created for you for today's workshop. We will be doing all the steps which we will see today as part of this workshop in this particular group. So go ahead and try to create this. I'll wait for a minute or two so everybody is on the same page. If you are stuck, if you don't know how to proceed, please feel free to put it in the chat and somebody from the team should be able to help you. Okay, I hope everybody is already on this page where they have a group created for themselves in gitlab.com. If not, then you can continue taking help from the team members and you should be able to do that. Now, as I said, you should be somewhere here. If you are not here and if there is a problem, you can go back to the group with the back page again using the redemption code. Put your username properly. Please make sure there is no ad. If there's no ad, that should be good. And then you should have here be be mindful that my test group will be same, but this particular ID will be different for each of you. So it should say something like my test group hyphen a number, alphanumeric number, which is very specific to your test group. Then we have different things which we will be doing for finding those particular instructions. You can go on the issues of this particular project. In these issues, you'll see 4 tracks. We will be completing all these 4 tracks as part of our hands-on exercise. So just to keep track on where we are going, if you go to issues, you should be able to see the 4 tracks which we'll be completing today. Coming back, we'll start with organize and define work track. But before that, let's try to see
Um,
why. Yeah,
Nupur, can you just briefly go back to the slide showing where you can get your username?
okay.
Just
Um, yes.
quickly head back to that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you see on gitlab.com, once you go to gitlab.com, or maybe I can show it over here as well. Once you open the gitlab.com page, on the left-hand side, you'll have an avatar if you are new to GitLab. If you click on that, then there will be your name, and under that, you will have at the rate. You have to remove at the rate, and the rest is your GitLab username. So you can copy it and then paste it in the gitlab.com username, and that should be good to go ahead.
Yeah, so just Roger, let us know if you now manage to get your username.
Okay, I'll move forward. So, for today's agenda, we will be going through the planning phase. And before planning, let's try to understand what GitLab is trying to achieve and where we are coming from. So, if you have worked like quite a lot in this industry, or maybe outside the industry, you might have seen that there were so many apps, so many things for each individual task you have to perform. You have a phone to dial up someone or talk to someone. You have a calendar. You have an email app. You have a camera. So there are so many things which used to interact, and for each and individual task, you every time have to go open something up and then work with it. And for another task, another app, and so on. Similar was with the case on your computers as well. So you have Firefox, you have a weather channel. So for each individual task you want to do, there are some other things, or specific application for that. When the smartphone was there, then it just changed the whole perspective, the way of working. Everything came on your hands. Everything from if you want to dial up someone, if you want to see the calendar, if you want to hear music, everything got combined in one specific device. So you do not need multiple devices for having a separate task. That is something which we are trying to do with the software delivery as well. So if you see, currently there are so many tools in the market for doing specific tasks. So for planning, you might hear different tools like Jira, and then you have for CI/CD a different tool. Then you have for security a different tool, which makes a complicated landscape where lots of access management, lots of tools are being there, which requires a lots of maintenance. You have to work on them, you have to maintain the access management, and so on. This particular tool chain sprawl requires a lot of work, not only for the developer side, but from the admin side. Somebody needs to integrate, somebody needs to make sure that they can talk to each other, somebody needs to make sure proper access is provided to each user based upon their requirements, and it makes hard to collaborate. So for example, if somebody is using portfolio management tool, they might not be able to collaborate that easily with the development team. Similarly, somebody from operations team might not be transparently communicate to development team or the security team, which increases cost and time spent on communicating on fixing issues and trying to make sure everybody understand each other's issue. For that particular part, GitLab is created a platform where every all the phases in DevSecOps comes on one platform. So from planning phase to the CI/CD to security, everything can be done on one platform, which makes communication transparent and easy. Now, a product owner does not have to wait for the developer to go and talk to him, but async, async confirmations or async communication can happen because all the steps on DevSecOps platform are on the same platform, on the same application. And going ahead with how a development team can talk to the product team, or how uh, a product query or a product feature can be asked from the development team. You can do all this on the planning stage of GitLab. Going forward, let's start with the first phase where we learn more about issues, tasks, how to create work items for the development team and communicate other requirements effectively for them to start development. So, before we start with the hands on access, let's try to understand the concepts which we use on GitLab to plan the work more effectively. Starting with the hierarchy, how we organize various teams within GitLab, we have something called organizations. Imagine organization as your top level. All the projects, all the business line comes under it. Then as part of different business lines, you can have groups. For example, you can have a specific departments. under a group, which again handles other specific areas of your business. Inside them, you can have subgroups, you can have teams who are building it. For example, you can have a web portal line of business who is handling your web application for that, but for your organization. And under it, you can have different teams. You can have a back-end team, you can have a front-end team who is developing different aspects of your projects, or maybe you have a different way of organizing. But it just makes sure that you have a systematic approach to have a hierarchy. This hierarchy not only helps you to identify your teams better, but it also helps you in making access management a little bit better. So, based upon who should have access to what, you can provide different type of permissions on different levels as they are strategically organized. And then at the last, you have the projects. So till now, at the organizational level or the group level or the subgroup level, it's all about organizing the teams. But when it comes to code, the work, it's always resides in the project. So projects are where the team work upon or team write codes or deliver applications. Above all, it's more about organizing the work or organizing the access management in a better way. Now, this is more organizing of the work, but how do we define work? So, for defining work in GitLab, we have various terminology, starting with epics. Epics are strategic initiatives across your organization. So, for example, you have an idea, a major product enhancement coming up in future, and you want to define that at the organization level. Now, that can have a sub work as well, or you can divide that particular chunk of future product enhancements in chunks, but the main big chunk where you define, okay, this is what we're trying to achieve, can be done at the epic level. For you who are working already with Agile, this might be a familiar concept. For those who aren't working with Agile, it's basically a big chunk of work you identify and you start to then make it little blocks of work which can be provided to team members, which developers can work upon. After epics, you have sub-epic. This is a smaller piece of, more manageable piece of work from that epic part. You can create sub-epics as in a different chunk of works for different line of businesses. If they are carried through different line of businesses, you can also think of sub-epics as different work items for different teams within a business line and so on. It just makes tracking more easy and also provide what each team or what each project needs to do for their own uh, area. And then we have issues, which is a discrete piece of work which can be delivered. So that is more at the development level. You, for those who are already aware of Agile, user story might be a familiar word. So think of issues as a user story. And then we have task. Task is basically making the work, breaking the technical requirements into smaller steps, which can be completed by the developer in one go. So in Agile, you try to make sure you have work which can be completed in a sprint. So think of task as small amount of works which can be completed by a developer in a specific sprint and so on. Now, these whole hierarchy can be different for different organization. You can have epics which have issues directly. They don't have any sub-epic, or you can have, if it's a big piece of work which requires inter-department, inter-business line communication, you can have epics under which a sub-epic and then issues and so on. So based upon the requirement, this whole structure can be as complicated as it can be, or it can be a very simple one if it's not a very complex requirement you're trying to achieve. Now, next part is the roadmap. So, when you want to see epics at the group level and see what are the planning or what are the things which are coming in the upcoming time, so you can have a timeline view like a grand chart of the epics. It is available at the group level and subgroup level to make your planning a little bit more easier. It helps you to visualize what's coming up next, when can you predict uh, things to go into production, and so on. Iterations are like sprints. So again, people who are already working with agile, they are used to the term sprint. Iterations are sprint in GitLab, where you can track issues over a small period of time to see how much work you have completed within that particular time. It also helps you to make sure all the tasks which you want to be completed within a train framework, you can club them, and that makes a visualization more easy. Then you have milestones, groups, milestone that helps you to track issues and merge requests against a set of period of time. So iterations are basically a little bit like for a smaller period, 2 weeks, 1 week, depending upon what's your frequency for sprints. But milestones is over a period. You can set a period, you can set a particular timeline and see what all issues, merge requests, what all tasks have you completed within that particular period. You can make this in different perspective. For some, it can be, it can act like a key to help with the release management, that for every month you can track what all things are completed, what do you want to release. For others, it can be just an enhanced tracking area to see how the timeline is or how the work is going on. So if you see, uh, what we just learned, we learned that we have access management, or we have project management, how you can categorize or combine your projects. When I say projects, it's basically the code in different groups, subgroups, and projects. Then you have epics, sub-epics, issues to identify uh, which areas needs work, to just tear down a large chunk of work into manageable work and distribute within different teams. This whole epic capability, you can see epics at the group level. You can also create epic or sub epic at the subgroup level. At the group level, you can also see issues. This is interesting because if you want to understand what all issues are created, you can just roll up from subgroups and projects into the group level to see all list of work items which are currently being done at the organization level. Again, this is for the transparency, to make sure you can see work at the project level, but at the group level as well. And then you have roadmaps, group milestones. Again, roadmap milestones and iteration at can be created at the group level. This is interesting when you want your whole team or whole organization to follow the same frequency or the same timeline. So, for example, if all through your organization you have same sprints, you can create a sprint at the group level, and this will be shown at the subgroup level, project level, so everybody can follow the same pattern, same rhythm. But for some other organization, this is not the case, and every team has their own rhythm, has their own sprints. For those particular purpose, you can create at the subgroup level as well. And then when it comes to uh, doing work, then all the Git repositories resides in projects. So if you remember, we saw that at the project level, all the code, all the development happens at the project level. So the Git repo, which your developers are storing, that is part of the GitLab project. Then we have a concept of merge request, where we collaborate on seeing all the changes. So whatever changes you make to the source code on a branch, that is part of the merge request. That helps you to identify what exactly is being changed, what was a discussion. So if you have any comments on that particular feature request, or if there is a change, you can always collaborate on that, and that acts as a single source of truth for all the proposed changes happening to that particular feature. Then you have CI/CD pipelines that is described to see how the code is being tested, built, and its stages for a merge request. So in a merge request, you can see the changes, but what stages the code goes through, whether you are only building and testing or whether you are doing any kind of vulnerability scans, you can define everything in those CI/CD pipelines. Then you have code reviews. Code reviews are threads on merge request where a developer or an SME or a product owner can comment on the code changes and tell if it is behaving properly or not, it is expected change, or they expected something else, but the development processes is not aligned with. So all those kind of feedback mechanism can happen on code reviews. Code reviews can be a mix. It can be technical. It can be a little bit non-technical as well, depending upon who all are involved. But basically, it's to make sure you can identify what needs to be changed ahead rather than later in the DevSecOps journey. And then another last concept is approvals, where for a merge request, you can have explicit acceptance based upon different scenarios before it is being merged into an environment or before the review is passed and so on. Somebody needs to approve it. So it's just signaling sign offs and saying we approve, we accept these changes to go ahead and merge into the next branch. So those are the concepts which we usually use in everyday uh, when we use GitLab. Now, coming back to the access management, we have quite a lot of roles which are available as part of GitLab's permissions and roles. So you can attach a role to a user or to a group, and then those people have limited access based upon the role, what they can do or what they can achieve. For specifically portfolio management and people who are managing the issues, epics, and related tasks, we have a role called planner. This is a special role which we created for a person or a user who is trying to plan and manage teams. For the planner role, there are lots of things which he or she can do based upon the tier they are on. So for free tier, there are certain things associated with them, and for premium, certain else, and for ultimate, some extra responsibilities. So it basically makes sure that all the access related to planning and portfolio management are allocated, and they are not associated with any complex task or like committing the code and so on, but still they are able to do all kind of things which are needed for planning in your organization. From 17.11, we also enabled custom fields. So we heard a lot of feedback around how the processes from different organizations might require extra fields which are not provided by default. And for that, we have created something called custom fields for your work items like issues, epics, where at the organization level, you can create them based upon your organization needs, any specific field which is specific to your processes, and then use them throughout. A single group can have up to 50 custom fields, and work item time can have 10 custom fields. So it again gives you a flexibility to make sure the processes in GitLab can be as close as to your organization's way of working. So moving on to the first task. After we have learned all the topics, let's move and see how we can organize our track and define work. So for that, I'll just split my screen into two. It would be nice for you as well. Again, if you are in your test group, let me go again. If you're on your test group, you can go on plan and issues. And these four things should already be visible to you. You can go and open this one of the issues. Here you'll have this, and for this particular track, we will be going through this particular issue. For ease of work, I will just split my screen into two so that I can follow both simultaneously. You can open this in two screens if that works well for you. So give me a minute. I'll just.
Also, just notice that the first issue in the list is the last item because it is sorted by create date descending somehow. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. That's a nice catch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are here and I have opened the issues. Hope you have as well. And we will be going through this. So starting. Starting with it, first of all, we'll create a new subgroup. So again, just move on to your test group. This will be like this, and here you can create a new subgroup. So I'll just click on the new subgroup, and under the subgroup name, I'll used my name, Tanuki Racing Group, and then you can go and create subgroups. If you have any trouble in following any of the steps or something is not visible, please put it in the chat and my colleague should be able to help you. So I'll just go and create a subgroup. And here, once I have created a subgroup, I'll start creating a new project. Now I will not create a project from scratch. I'll just go on import project and import project by URL. And then I will provide a URL. You have the URL in the issue as well. So you can just go and select the URL and put it in the Git URL. This will copy the whole project because we will be working on creating plans, creating epics, and then afterwards Jan will help you to create a project as well. So for those particular steps, just go ahead and we'll copy the repository. Like me, if you have added a space, it will show you a wrong repository. So make sure there is no space when you paste it, and then you can go below and then create a project. It will take a couple of minutes. If you see any kind of errors, to let us know, but ideally the project import should be successful within a minute or so. I'll give a minute for everyone to follow this step and let us know if you encountered any issue. So as I said, we will be working on all the things, all the items for the dev flow, for the planning phase in this project. So we have just copied this template project so that we can work upon it. Go ahead and follow the process provided, and then you should be able to create a project for yourself. Now, if you see on the left side, now it says a project and not a group. That means now we are in a project where the code resides. Here you can already see a template code already configured for you. Going forward, now we will be using Duo Chat to ask questions. As I already mentioned in your repositories, GitLab Duo, which is the AI part of GitLab, is already enabled. It acts as a live chat assistant for you, so you can just go and ask questions. For example, we showed the issue, right? But I can just go, where can I see the issues for my project? And it will try to find answers for you. So this helps you instead of going to and fro on a documentation and try to see what's happening. You can just go ahead and work with this, ask questions here, and it will help you uh, find answers. Also, for example, here you can see I can go select plan from here, and here I have issues. So if you have any questions related to how to use GitLab, or you can ask how to create codes or any kind of assistance, you can ask from GitLab Duo. You can also create Gantt charts. So for example, I open this epic I want to create a Gantt chart for this. So Gantt diagram. So I'll just say, please create a Gantt diagram for this epic, and it will help me to create a Gantt diagram for this, or it should be. Okay, it says it doesn't have access to the child. So conceptual diagram is weird. Am I on the right path? Yeah, and can you check if it's creating for you or if it is having child issues? Because it should have child issues. It has child items.
Let me try it.
Yes. So meanwhile, again, it gives you a question. If you ask a question, for example, it does not allow me to create a Gantt diagram, but it tells me that it is creating uh, a conceptual one because it cannot find specific child or issues associated within this epic. So this is an interesting one because even though something is not possible, it will tell you why it's not possible or where the error is happening. So again, it takes a context of the repository you are and then help you according to what you have asked. Or if it's not there, it will tell you why it is not there. So it's like co-working, I would say. So any one of you who has worked with co-programming, co-working, you sit together. It's like a virtual person sitting with you, telling you or giving you feedback based upon that. Um, let's go on the next step. Now, to start planning, first we will just align some things which are common throughout the group, and then we will utilize them throughout our workshop today. So for them, let's start to first create labels. So what are labels? Labels are something which you identify as processes. For example, you might have processes which identify issues or user stories as P1, P2, or you have a specific workflow where your user story goes from created to being working to being in review to being done. So there can be various scenarios where very specific to your organization and you want to follow the same processes. For that, we have labels. Labels can be in two ways. One is like single handle labels like P1, P2, just to identify tasks, or there can be labels which are on the scope. So, for example, you have a flow where it goes from planning to review, and a work item or a user story in planning cannot be in review. And if it's in review, it cannot be in planning. So, you can have different versions of labels. We will create both and see how it can be utilized. So, I'll go to creating a new label. You can create again label at the organization level or at the project level. If you are creating at the organization level, then you can have them used throughout. So every team within the organization can use that. You can also create labels specific to your project. So it's very specific. Not everyone in your organization use that. You can create it at the group, project level. I will create it at the organization level, so my test group, because mine will be used throughout. So I'll just go, I'll say labels. And in label, let's try to create a new label. I'll say P1 for the items which have priority 1, and I'll create a label for that. Then I'll have P2. You can also create description over here. It's again to identify why this label was created. For example, this is for tab. You can just make it any time. You can make it as generic as possible. You can make it as descriptive as possible. Now, let's see and let's try to create another type of label, which is called scoped labels. As I said, scoped labels are the labels which allows you to define a workflow so that no two specific labels can be there. So if somebody is in planning phase, they cannot be in review. If they are in review phase, they cannot be in done phase and so on. So for today, I'll be using two-step. I'll be using workflow planning and I'll give that as green, for example. And another one I'll use is review and I'll give them as yellow. So now my labels are created and I can use them throughout the planning stages or throughout various stages in GitLab. Once this is done, let's try to create a board. So issue boards are again a place where you can define all your work items and try to create work for your teams or at the organization level. If you want to create broader work items, I'll create issues at the project level. So let me try to go on the project again. So if you are here using the breadcrumbs, this is your group. In the group, you will have Tanuki Racing subgroup, and inside that, you have a Tanuki Racing project. I'll go on the Tanuki Racing project here. Again, using breadcrumbs, you can. I was on the group just to be sure, to avoid confusion. We are on the group. Inside group, we have a subgroup which we created and under which you'll have Tanuki Racing project. Once you click on Tanuki Racing project, if you click on the left hand side, you should be on the project, not on the group level. Now, I'll start creating boards. So issue board are a place where you can see similar items or you can create a view for yourself. You can create different kind of boards which have different kind of workflows. For example, let's try to create a development. So let's try to create a new board. You already have a development board by default whenever you work with GitLab issue boards planning area. But let me create a new board to see how you can configure a view for yourself. So for example, I want to create a view called team scoped board and I'll just create a board. Now I can configure this as a view, which I think I want to use every day. So for this particular scenario, I want to see all the user stories which are in workflow planning or workflow review. So for example, I'll just say, um, I'll go on the new list and then I'll add the label workflow planning, add to the board and new list workflow review, add to the board. Now, as a product owner, this is my view to identify any user stories which are in open mode. Then I can see, okay, I have user stories which are in planning. That means we are still trying to plan and see which sprint or when that user story can be taken or issue can be taken. Then it will be in the review mode and then it will be closed. So maybe that's a workflow for me, but for a development team, it can be a different board. It can be open, then it can be a to do, and then it can be work in progress, done, review, and so on. So in a specific team, that can be different views for different team members according to what kind of workflow they follows. Uh, uh, ops team can have a different workflow processes. Review team, a product owner can have a different flow. So for everyone, you can have different types of board. So it's like a query. Usually you do a query and then you see the results. Instead of doing query every now and then, you can have a new board which have your own version of the flow and then you can work from here. Now, once we add issues, which will create the scoped labels, if you add a scoped label, it will automatically create on that particular lane. So for example, if I create an issue, which I will show you in some time, and if I mark them as workflow planning, it will come in workflow planning and review and so on. So let's try to first create some milestones and then we will move on to this particular list. So moving on to the milestones, and I'll just say new milestone, and we have Tanuki Racing migration milestone. I'll say start date is today, end date I will say somewhere next week, and then you can put some description if you want to do, and then create a milestone. Now, what this will do is this will create a place where you can see for that particular period. For us, it's 7 days. What are the unstarted issues? What is the ongoing issues? What are the completed issues? So you can track what amount of work has been completed, what has not been completed, or what is ongoing to keep a track of what you can expect in those 7 days. So again, it's a place where you can see issues, merge requests, all associated. You can also interestingly use labels to identify the works. For example, you have a feature coming on and you want that as part of labels. You put that name as part of labels and attached all the user stories. You can see for that particular feature what kind of labels are being used. What for that particular milestone, what labels are being used. So you can use it in different ways. Now, we have created labels, we have created a new board, we have created a project milestone. Now let's try to create an issue and see how it reacts. So I'll go on issues, and on issues, we have a new issue. So again, on left hand side, plan issues. You can go on new issues. Now we have to give a title. You can say create project wiki, and then I want to I want to use AI to create a description. And for that particular part, I will just click on this Tanuki sign. Usually when you see this Tanuki sign, this is the duo sign. I will click on generate issue, and then you give a brief description of what you want to do. So instead of writing the whole description yourself, you can take help from the AI by putting one line or two lines of what you want to achieve. For example, what I want to achieve is I want to provide a description around creating a descriptive project wiki. For that, I can just do that and click on submit. As soon as I click on submit, the AI will try to create a detailed description for this particular issue. So for example, here it says create a comprehensive project wiki documentation, a description, a requirement. What are the requirements for this? So for example, set up structured wiki layout, project include project overview, document technical architecture, and so on. So you get a whole key requirement. You also get an acceptance criteria and so on. Interesting part which you'll see is it also tells you that it is generated by AI. This is again very nice for transparency factor, which helps us to identify any task which is done by AI, highlighting, okay, this was done by AI, so that if a review needs to be done, you can just see and do a quick glance and confirm if that is something which is uh, okay or which is right for what you were trying to do. Once that is done, I will assign it to myself. Then let's try to assign a label. So I'll assign a label P2 for this, which we just created. Then I will also assign the milestone to what we created. So if you see in the drop down, all the milestones which are available will be shown for me. This was the milestone I just created, Tanuki Racing Migration milestone. I'll just click on that. Then for the weight, I will give it a random one. Weights are again, if you are used to Agile, those are different numbers which a team discuss and give to a user story to tell us how much time they think it will take. So it's a mix of complexity, the time taken, and so on. Usually it's a Fibonacci series, but every team has their own way of defining the weight management. It's just a way of identifying how much work do we think we have to complete. And also, usually, teams have specific number in a sprint. So, for example, you can say in a sprint, we can usually take 20 waits based upon number of developers we have and amount of hours we work. That give you a roundabout aspect of how much you want to take in the sprint or how much you want to remove from the sprint and so on. Once that is there, and then I'll give a due date to next week. So I'll give it at 16, and then that's done, and I'll create an issue. Once I'll create an issue, all the details which are there. So for example, you can see here the AI generated, again, description is provided over here, and all the details which we filled are here. Now, next, moving on to um, let's create another issue. So let me go and create another issue. Now this issue, now next one is we are creating GL to enhance our project wiki. So this is there. And then for the description, again, we will just quickly use one line to see what do we. So for description, we say provide a short description around using GLQL to display relevant information on our project wiki. Now, once we submit it again, the AI will try to create all the detailed steps which might be helpful in achieving this particular user story, uh, including acceptance criteria, context, and so on. Again, I'll use the same process where I'll assign it to myself. I'll use the label. This time I'll use a scoped label so we can see how scope level functions when we use them on the boards. I'll give a generic weight. So I think it's a 6 weight user story. Then I'll give the due date as, again, next week and so on, and then create an issue. Now, if you see, we have two issues which are created. Now we'll go on the board and see how that looks like. I'll just finish this whole part, and then we can take 2-3 minutes to make sure everyone has caught up in between. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, please put them on the chat. And if I'm going too fast, also please put it in the chat, and then I can take a little bit slower. So now we have done this. Let's try to see how our board looks like. So I'll just go on the issue board. And this is the development board. Again, I have created the board team scoped review, team scope board for myself. So I'll go on that and see how that looks like. So if you see here, I have one open issue because that did not had any label associated with it. Then I have workflow planning, I have workflow review. If you remember, for the second issue, I explicitly put workflow review label. So now you will see it in the review label and so on. Another use case or another way of using labels can be like you put a backlog label and then create a board for the backlog to just see which items are not even evaluated. You haven't looked into it. So there can be many use cases to use labels. One of them is here. Once this is there, uh, another way of working is if you want to work in progress. So suppose you have team member of 4 people and this review is done by one particular person, and in a sprint you anonymously say that okay, we can only review work items with maximum to 4 weights or 6 weights. Then you can actually on uh, each specific area or each specific step, you can maximize what weights are allowed. So for example, I will say work in progress limit can be weights 4. This can be according to items, that means number of user stories, but I have put at weights. Now, what it will do is every time in this particular step or in this particular area, we have more than what is said, the system will display that work in progress limit is 4 weeks. This helps you to identify at early stages that something might not be able to finish because the capacity to finish is less than what you have in your queue. So again, this particular user story requires 6 waits, but here my maximum weight is 4. It is showing, so you can already review if something needs to go out or something needs to be added in case it's not fully utilized, and plan your task ahead. Then you can also create issues using quick actions. Let's try to see how that looks like. So we have created 2 issues. We saw how that looks on the board, and also we limited our work in progress. Now, another way of creating an issue is quick action. So let's go and try to see, uh, create a new issue. Now I'll just name my issue or put a title for my issue. I want to test out the service desk capability. So I just write test out service desk. Now you can use a template. What it does, it just utilize whatever is provided as part of the template, and that is utilized to create an issue. So for example, I'll choose workforce template, and it just filled in all the things which we have predefined in the templates. This again helps you to make sure if you want to make all the issues or set some criteria for your user stories before you can create a user story, you need some information already filled. You can create these kind of templates, and it will act as a uh, generic workflow for issue creation. So I'll just go and create issue, and what it does it. So if you see, now I did not explicitly put the label, I did not explicitly put the due date and so on. It just took automatically using the template. So this is also a way of creating issues to make sure it's unanimously same throughout your team, organization, or at any level which you desire. Now, move issues. So now we have create issues. Now see how we can interact these issues on the board itself. So I'll go on the issue board again. And as I created my board for team scope board, I'll go on this and see. Now you see there are 3 issues. 2 of them are open because I did not put any explicit scoped labels on that. And then one is in review mode. Now, let's see what happens when we just make changes on this particular thing. So we have test test out service desk. We will put this in planning mode. Now, once I put this in planning mode and I'll click on it, you see the label automatically changed on the planning. Interesting part is if you see there was a P2 label. So P2 label did not got removed, but an extra label which identify which step in the workflow we are is assigned. Now, once this is done, what I will do is I will move this. So once I'm in planning, I have done with the planning, I'll just go and move to the review board. Once I'm in review, now, if I click on this, now I have P2, but I also have workflow review. So this is the concept of scope labels, where scope labels helps you to identify which step in the workflow you are, and no 2 steps can be there in a single user story. So here, previously it was in planning phase, now it's in review. So it helps you to identify which stage you are. And then once this is done, I can go and I can just close the issue, and this will automatically close it. And now you don't have any of the workflow labels over here. So I will just move it back to the workflow planning, but hope this clarifies how uh, different steps go on. So I'll just put it again in plan, because we will use it in upcoming epic creation and so on. So now you see you can create this whole flow. It can be very specific to your organization. You can create these steps based upon your processes and then move your user stories based upon which stage they are currently on. The last concept we haven't worked upon is milestones. So now let's go and see how milestones. So we created a milestone, but we did not see how that looked like. So Tanuki racing migration milestones. Now, if you see here, this is again, I have created it for 10th June to 17th June, and now I can track how it is or what is the progress of my particular work. So here I can see I have an open task, I have an ongoing issue one, and I have completed zero. It says, it tells me what is the total issue weight, how many are open, how many are closed, and so on. So it acts as one particular single view to identify whatever is happening as part of a particular timeline. This can be different from sprints. You can make it a little bit broad, like a month or so, so associated with a release to just see track of what's going on or what you're planning for an upcoming release and how it's going. Once this is done, I will close this issue because we have finished this. I'll give it a minute so that you can cover whatever you are lagging on, and then we can go ahead. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, please put it in the chat and be able to help you. So I have closed this issue. Now this is done, and we will move on the next day. So again, a minute or two to finish what you're doing, and then we can go ahead. Okay, moving on. Now we have created issues, we have created epics. Now we will go on planning the portfolio releases. So for that we will create epics. So for now we only created issues, milestones, but we will create epics and see how the broader piece of work can be created, how the requirements can be created at the organization level and work be distributed. So epics are can be as complicated as you want to make or as easy as like just having an epic and an issue. You can have an epic, then underneath you can have direct issues in the project. That would be one big chunk of work, and then issues associated with it. But you have, if you have multiple business lines, multiple teams working on the same epic or working towards the same goal, and you want to distribute the work in more logical way to track it at team level, business level, and so on, you can create child epics and then under it create issues. You can have 7 nested child epics. That means you can have 7 levels of hierarchy. Again, it can be through various groups, subgroups, depending upon how you want or how small piece you want to make for different teams. Next concept in this is roadmaps. Roadmaps tells you a higher picture. So if you have many epics going on in your organization and you just want to visualize how they look like, how the whole story is coming into picture, in what timeline, which epic you can expect, all these kind of details you can see in the roadmap view. So this view gives you more flexibility of visualizing not only one feature request or not only one area of development, but whatever is going in your organization, you can have a view overview of that in this particular area. So for this, we will use plan portfolio release to identify how to create epics, how to associate user issues, and so on. I got Arthur raised hands. Jan, Mariana, can you help him? I'll and let me know if you want me to stop. But for now, I will continue. Um, okay, moving on, let's go and again try to open. So for opening, I'll go again with the whole process. So go on the My Test group. This is the My Test group. You have Tanuki Racing Project Management Workflow. Click on that. On the right hand side, you'll have issues. Now, because we closed one issue, there would be three more issues. We have to use second one. If you click on that, plan portfolio release, you will be navigated into the issue which we'll be using for this particular phase. So again, in the group, Tanuki Racing Project Management Workshop, this will be same for all of you. Just go ahead and on the issue, go on plan portfolio releases. On the project side, you will go on Tanuki Racing project. So again, for those who might have lost where they are in another window, so this is plan portfolio release, another window to follow the steps, but in another window, my test group, you have Tanuki Racing group. Inside it, you have Tanuki Racing project. So if you click on left side, you should be in the project now. So starting, we will create the first epic. So for that, we will go to the epic. Oh, yeah. So epics are created at the group level. So let me go a step back and in the Tanuki Racing group, let me create an epic. So here I have epics. Again, Tanuki Racing group. If you're in a project, okay. So if you are in a project, if you will not be able to see Epic, so if you're in a project, go a step back, Tanuki Racing group, and then you'll be able to see epics because epics are created at the group level. So I'll go on the group and then I'll say new epic. And then it asks me to fill a title. I'll say first GitLab epic. And then I'll just say add a short description, create first epic for Tanuki Racing. And then I've added a short description. I'll add the start date as today, and I'll add as due date as something in next week, and then I'll try to create an epic. Now I have an epic. I'll just click on that. And this is at the group level, my biggest chunk of work. Now, I can, again, as I said, you can create directly user stories behind it, but I think I need to drop it or I need to make it a little bit smaller, which makes sense for my team. So I will create two child epics. So for that particular thing, you can go in the child items. I can go add and create new or an existing. So if you already have an existing epic, you can go and search for an existing epic, but I do not have any. So I'll go on new epic and I will say GitLab wiki epic. So I want to have two part of things. One is I want to create an epic for wiki. So I will just add that and then I'll say create an epic. And then also I want to create another epic for service desk. So I will say GitLab service desk epic. So uh, if you see here, what I have done is I have a bigger chunk of work, which is GitLab first epic. Under it, I have two smaller things which are totally different. One is GitLab Wiki and another is GitLab Service Test. And I want to do complete both of them, but they are not dependent of each other. So I'll just create two different epics to track them separately. And then I'll say create epic. So here I go. We have two different epics now. Now, for each of the epic, I want to create issues. Again, you can create issues. Uh, Either you choose an existing issue or you create new issues. So let's try to create something for GitLab Wiki epic. So I'll go and open this particular epic in a different page. Now, this is my sub epic. Here, if you see parent, you will see the epic which it is created from. So the parent epic also comes over here if you want to just go through the whole tree hierarchy. But for now, I want to create a child item and I want to add an existing issue because I already have existing issues created. If you remember in our last stage, we created 3 issues. So I just want to add them. So I'll just say as soon as you click, either because I have only 3, it listed all 3 of them, or you can also search it by putting some keywords. So I said create, so it automatically populated create project wiki, and this is I want to add, so I'll add issue. Now, for this particular epic, GitLab Wiki epic, I have one user story, create project wiki, but for the other 2, so if you remember, we created 2 sub epics, GitLab Wiki epic and service desk. For service desk, I have 2 different ones. So I'll just go and I'll add existing issue and it will again populate it. I'll add this user story and this user story to the issues. So to make sense out of it, I'll go. So this was my biggest epic. I created 2 sub epics because those are different chunk of work. GitLab Service Desk and GitLab Wiki. And on this, I added some user stories. Now, in this particular view, you should be able to see everything as hierarchy. So for my first GitLab epic, I have a child epic under which I have a user story. All small details regarding when you can expect that. So these dates are the dates which are inherited from here. Are there? Then you have how many issues are part of this. You can find out how many issues are closed by hovering over here. It tells you the weights associated with issues. So a small glimpse of the items which are required to complete are provided over here. Similarly, with GitLab Desks, it tells you that 2 issues are associated with it, out of which 0 is closed. There is total issue weight of 7, and so on. So here you can see the whole branch. Now, I hope you all have created these items. If you are not, or if somebody is confused about how to do them, put your questions in the box. But after this step, you should have one big epic, 2 sub epics, and inside you should have user stories associated with them. Now, next thing is we'll plan some iterations. So we want to create sprints to identify the rhythm of our development processes. And for that, I will go at the group level again. You can create it at any level. I'll create at the group level and I'll just go and say iterations and new iteration cadence. I'll say sprints because I work with sprints in my organization. So Springs cadence, and then I want to start it today. This is today, and the duration of this sprints is 2 weeks. And I want to already create 4 sprints. So already I want to make sure I have 4 cadence selected. So I'll just create this. And if you see here, every 2 weeks there will be a new sprint already, a new iteration already provided. So you don't have to go and create again and again. Now, we can add these to the sprint. Again, this will act as identifying which user story is being picked up in which sprint. This is usually done as part of your planning phase where you can use it as a team and try to identify which user story you are taking in the upcoming sprint, or maybe you are planning already for next 2 sprints or 3 sprints. So let's try to create or let's try to do that. So I'll go, this is my test group. Now I will go in my project because my user stories are in my project, Tanuki Racing, and here you have. I'll go on the issue boards. So here we have, once we have issue, we can select anything. So let me go, and for example, I have this. Here I will just current iteration. So this is for this one maybe, and so on. So you can select different sprints based upon your requirement. I have selected this one, and let's try to do it for all remaining issues as well. So this one is already done. I'll use this one as well. And then the third one as well. Now, this will make sure that, going back, this one has make sure that I have all the things planned. You see here, this also identifies the sprints here. So on the board itself, you can see which iteration or sprint this particular work is attached to. Now, we want to see the roadmap, how that looks like, because we discussed about how roadmap can give you a whole view. So let's go on Taniki Racing Group. Okay. Once you are here from the plan phase, you can go on the roadmap. And now you can see all the things associated with what we just created. So you see there is one milestone which is created, which is Tanuki Racing milestone. Here in this Tanuki Racing milestone, you can plan, as I said, a use case for this can be releases, but you can use it a different way as well. But you can think of it as a release, and then what all can be part of that. Then there is a particular epic which is finishing before this milestone is finishing. I can see 0 out of 9 waits are completed. That means nobody has even started working on it yet. But if I want to dig deeper, I can see into, okay, 2 more epics are part of it and 0% of them are completed. Now, the more you start working on them and the more you finish user story, you can see them finishing. So this acts as like an overall picture of for you to visualize what is coming in the upcoming days, what are the epics or what are the piece of work which are part of the upcoming which the development team are working on, what is the expectation, because I see I'm already on 10th, I have a week left and there is nothing finished. Maybe if it's something urgent you want to promote or you want to be finished, you can always have a talk with the development team if there are any blockers and so on. So it just gives you a high level uh, map to identify what is working, what's going on, and so on. Similarly, in the sprint, so let's go and we'll go on iterations and we'll go on our current iteration. It gives you again a burn down chart, a burn up chart of the tasks which are there. So if you see the completed task is 0, incomplete is 67%, and we haven't even started 33%. So it gives you which issues are still not started, which are in progress, and so on. Again, giving you or helping you to visualize what is the progress. You can do it on issue count, but if your organization work with weights, you can also see this burn down chart and burn up chart on the weights. If you see now, from 33%, it's 11% because the issues which are in incomplete state holds more weight. So it changed, but again, depending upon the way your organization work, it can be uh, based upon issues, these charts, or it can be based upon the counts itself. So we come to an end of task 2. Now so I'll close this issue. Okay. And for the next part, Jan will be taking over and will be navigating with the remaining workshop. We'll take a 5-minute break. Can have a quick break, have a coffee or something, and then we'll start again in 5 minutes.
Yeah, so be it. So I hope everyone is back. And let me just share my screen as well. So here we go. Yeah, let's get on. The next topics we will cover are the project wikis. There are also group wikis, by the way, but we'll focus on the project wikis and on the GitLab query language, or short GLQL. So, yeah. So basically, now that we have defined our roadmap, we want to make it easy that others can also talk about the Tanuki racing and the status of the planned work. Wikis serve obviously very well as a good foundation for providing any kind of context and any kind of content. And we'll be using the GitLab query language also to make our issues accessible. With that being said, the benefits of a wiki is, I mean, obviously it's great for general sharing with your colleagues. It's really easy to set up. It's really integrated. We'll see that in a moment. It's well integrated in the GitLab UI. As I said, it's available on project level. It's also available on group level. So you can have, for example, a team wiki where you share your best practices. The wikis itself are also Git repositories. So they are also kind of stored as code. It's a dedicated repository, which you can also access and clone if needed. And you can put in Markdown or any other files as written here. So Markdown would be the most common, but there are other supported files as well. The GitLab query language is a recently introduced new feature, and it allows you to display issues and epic information in various places in a table form. We also plan other ways to make it accessible in the future. But right now it's a table, it's a read-only table. Also, that might change in the future. And you can insert this GitLab query language query, the GitLab query language query, for example, in wikis, but you can also use them in descriptions for epics and issues and merge requests, basically in any work item like a task, and also in the comments on those work items. So everywhere where GitLab uses Markdown to allow you to enter content, you can use the GitLab query language to show a tabular view of issues and specific attributes of those issues. So we will hop into the third section. I think has been renamed. Let me just get to you here. So this has been renamed into GLQL and Project Wiki. So this is the process we are now going to follow. Just so as the first step, we'll head back into our Tanuki racing project. So let me just do this here. And I'll try to, I think my screen is a little bit smaller than Nupur's. So let me try to follow along here. And in the Tanuki reg,
Maybe,
yeah,
sorry, Jan,
yeah.
Seraphine or Mariana can confirm. I see your screen too much of, I mean, I cannot see the one version. I think it's magnified a lot. Seraphine, Mariana, can you confirm, or is it me who is not seeing the whole screen properly? It's like too much zoomed.
Oh no, I can see it properly. I can see two screens shared, one the instructions, the other one GitLab.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay,
me
then
too.
it's good. Then there's something wrong with mine. Okay, thank you. I
Did
just
you did
wanted
you
to
maybe
confirm.
did you maybe zoom in?
No, it's my standard no zoom in, but I can see a whole stretch screen and not once. I just wanted to make sure everyone is seeing
Okay.
correctly. Okay, go ahead, sir. Yeah,
Well,
thank
I will just for safety. Let me reshare it. So here we go. Does that work?
No, I think something is some issues is with me. It's okay.
Okay.
If
Oh
everybody
well,
sees perfectly, that's fine.
good. So we'll create a wiki. You would usually do that in the plan wiki section. Well, of course, we have created an issue that we want to create a project wiki. So let's just follow the process to do it properly. We have previously created this issue in, I think, the first section. So let's just be mindful and do it the proper way. So we now assigned ourselves to this issue. I want to say, okay, maybe adding some comments here, checking this issue out. Let's comment on this particular one. And to add a second comment. Okay, I will just copy and paste that. I'm too lazy to write it. So good. Let's do the additional comment here. You can add more comments. I think this is more to show you that the AI is now able to also help you with a summary. So GitLab Duo can basically, beautiful. The demo effect. Let me just retry that. So I made my comments here as a few summary. And I mean, obviously, this is a small issue, but it gives you a summary of the comments. So that might be really, really helpful if you work, especially if you work async, fully remote, maybe like most of us GitLab team members do. So we document a lot in issues and communicate a lot over issues. And then it's sometimes really useful to use the Duo chat just to get a summarization of what has been discussed. You can also ask it, what's the purpose of this issue? I think we've done this before. But you can also interact with the chat in a less formal way, or you use the button like view summary of the comments or the slash command summarize comments, which all does the very same. So with that being said, while Duo is summarizing the issue, which it correctly did, let's proceed to step 2. We'll create our project wiki. So you can do that from the menu. As I said, here in the plan section, you will have the wiki. Also, you have the add wiki shortcut here if there is none. The most important files and and features you might want to add to a project are also always seen here. So you can say add wiki here as well. And let's create the first wiki page. So it will be, just to remove that, it will be our home page. You might choose a different title. It will be Markdown. And let me also just copy and paste the content here, main page of our Tanuki racing application, housing the leaderboard for the new hit game. Beautiful. So let's create this page. Very straightforward operation. And yeah, then let's create another one. So now I think where's the plus?
I think when you hover over home.
Yeah, okay. So thank you. Let me just resize it again. So good. Below the home section, we create a new page. This is issue table. We still use Markdown. And as you see, you're also able to create templates for your wiki pages. So if you have like a specific format to document, for example, team meetings or something like this, which sometimes might be done on a wiki page, or to document specific features, you can create templates for a wiki page and just reuse them here as well. So in this case, now we want to create a GLQL, a GitLab query language table. And we just copy that from here as well. Just make sure that you're not in the rich text editing mode here. So if it says switch to plain text, you should do this. And then I would just copy what I copied from here. Now here, for whatever reason, it adds a couple of more backticks. I don't know why that is, but it needs to start. Obviously, you can have text before, so you can, it's regular Markdown, so you can start with regular text. And you can also add headlines, just as you would write in Markdown. But the triple backticks start a code block, and the GLQL afterwards tells the interpreter that this code block is a GLQL code block. So that's by no means different from other code blocks you can insert in a Markdown file. If you, I don't know, write something like this. We will just format it accordingly, but we know that's SQL because you told us that it's an SQL code block. Here it is a GLQL code block, and it follows like a certain format, which obviously is also documented. We need to replace the project ID here. So what you basically would do is you will just make it a little bit bigger again. You will take the path to the project from your URL. There are, of course, other ways to retrieve it. I will just use it here, and I will just completely replace everything between the quotation marks here with the project ID. So IDs in projects in GitLab and groups in GitLab are generally always identified by a full path. There's also a project ID. In this case, we use the full path. And the GitLab query language is basically a little bit like SQL, right? So we will display a table. This is right now the only display mode. We will select a couple of fields. So this is the title, the state of the issue, whether it's closed and open and so on. The health status, in which epoch it is in, which milestone it has been set, which weight, and when it was last updated. We will limit it to at maximum 10 entries, and it's basically an SQL where clause, right? So it says project needs to be that one, and we only want to see open issues. So let me just get back to that. Yeah, now that you can obviously create the page, you can also quickly check in the preview tab whether we did everything correct before we actually save it. So yeah, we did. You see here, that's the additional text I typed, the SQL code block, which I added as well, and the GLQL table showing the 3 issues which we have created. I didn't really follow along here in my demo group what Nupur did in the first section. So you might see some more epics here. I skipped that. But you see the 3 issues we have created initially and only the opens ones. So let me just create the page. And whenever something on these issues changes, the GLQL table will be updated accordingly. So maybe let me just change. I will open this one here. Let me just change the weight on this issue here from 2, let's say, to 4. And obviously the modification I just did is tracked here as well. And if I reload, you see it is updated as well. So it always gives you a live view into your current issues, and you can use this in any kind of markdown area in GitLab. As I said, it will be the wiki, it will be issue descriptions itself, so you can create a meta issue or something like this. You can also use GLQL in issue comments to address that them. I don't know. You might want to make colleagues aware of certain issues, so you can just put in a GLQL query and show them that those are the issues related to your project, for example. Good. Of course, in the wiki, we are also able to comment if we want. So let me go back to the homepage, and you could, of course, also leave your footprint here. This is a comment. I might go ahead here. So, because there might be always also discussions required on this one here. So this, closes the 3rd section. And we have created wiki pages. We have created GLQL queries within the wiki page. As I said, wikis are also available on group level. So if I just go here in the breadcrumb navigation to the group level, there's also a wiki. This one is an empty wiki now, so compared to the issues, they do not aggregate. So the project wikis are local to the projects. The group wikis are local to the project, to the groups. They do not aggregate up the hierarchy. So that's important to understand. This will be a wiki solely for this particular group. And with that, let's go on to the 4th part. Let's integrate Service Desk. So we basically so far dealt with our issues that we create during our development. We did some planning. We did it in an agile way with sprints or iterations, as we call them. Now we want to include our customers. So there's a way to add of course, we can add our customers into our GitLab, right? We could invite them into our GitLab, make them part of the process, but there's also a way that our customers can give us feedback using GitLab Service Desk. So what is it? It is a customized service portal built right into GitLab. And the interactions of your customers will be done through emails. There's also an API, but your customers can deliver your bug reports, feature requests, and so on just via email. And the arriving emails will be then directly converted into GitLab issues. And from there, you can basically work on them just like any other GitLab issues. And every interaction you create on that issue will then automatically also generate an email as a notification to all participants, and being also sent to your customers which created it in the first place. So in our Tanuki Racing, the service desk could, for example, be used to have a project-specific email address. So our paying customers can email us directly from the application. So each email they create will then create an issue in the corresponding project. We can review the issues in there, see there's a new support request, and then respond directly to our customers by just answering or commenting on that very issue. And then, of course, we can use the regular issue workflow as you have seen it before to assign it to an epic, maybe mark it with specific labels, start a merge request from the issue, and when the merge request is merged, the issue is also closed automatically. So yeah, benefits here obviously that you do not need another tool to do the customer service. You can do it through GitLab as well. So let's get to the last instruction. I also think this is the wrong image, but you will see it here. It's the fourth, like the first one in the list, but it's number 4, the service desk integration feedback. So let's start. Let me unfold this. We need to enable service desk in the first place. So there is like, let me just try to move this along again. And let me go to the project here. Here we go. So in the monitor section, you have the service desk. It shows you informations. You can, of course, enable and disable it. I think it's enabled by default. We will do a few customizations as the issue here describes. So let's just do this. We can do this in the settings general section here. And we will go down to the service desk, unfold the service desk. As I said, is active by default. And we can specify a few things. For example, if a external participant, so if your customers answer to a issue email which has already been closed, you might want to reopen it. You can choose your own email, so that's more of a configuration issue. Here on gitlab.com, the email address or the suggested email address for reaching the service desk will be this one. I will share this with you in a moment here in the chat. So you can actually just write an email to this particular email address and you will see it in the service desk. Be aware, if you do this, you might reveal your own email address here in the screen share. So just be mindful about this. Okay, so we will also set the name. I think this is Tanuki Racing Support Bot. Let's do this as well. Not here. Here. Here we go. And yeah, we could configure a custom email address. So if you operate your own email infrastructure, you could set it up with a custom inbox. We don't do this here. We just rely on the default service from GitLab. I will save those changes. And yeah, let's see if you already created some issues via email. This is not the case. In the meantime, I will write one as well. Or maybe Nupur, you can write one. So 1 second. So just write one on my second screen. So, okay, let me reload here. Nothing has happened. Why is that? Did I misconfigure something?
It takes some time. I think mine took like 1 or 2 minutes for it to come through.
So now we need a little bit of waiting music. Here we go. So this was the one I have created. And as you see, it will be created as a confidential issue initially. Confidential issue means that only the people who have access to the project can see this particular issue. So if my Tanuki Racing group would be public, for example, other people could not see this issue because it's marked as confidential. So that limits the scope. I can, of course, at some point remove the confidentiality if I, for example, think that other people should be able to see this. But yeah, here we say the game doesn't work. So, and then I can also respond here. Why would you say that? And I would now receive the response as an email to my gitlab.com address because I'm now an additional participant on this conversation. So let's see whether in the meantime we have some more. Okay, so none of you want it. That's okay. But yeah, you see the subject I picked for the email is now the title of the issue. Of course, I can get into the issue and change that if it's needed. I can also edit and add more information to the issue description because it is just a simple regular issue. So I can amend this information and yeah, can interact with it through comments, and I will always get a notification email whenever a comment is written, because my email address is now an external participant on those particular support desk issues. I can also add labels and so on in Epic, so I can treat it as regular issues. So with that being said, if there are any questions to this particular feature, please feel free to put it in the Q&A or in the chat, and we will then basically go on with the last chapter, which is to transfer your project. Your project in the current state will be available for 2 more days, so you can use and test other things. You have access to all the ultimate features, so if you want to try things out, just feel free to do it in your project or in your group. If you want to preserve the content, which we did, you might just do this. As I said, only do this when you are done, because if you move it into another GitLab group which doesn't have an ultimate license applied, you will lose some of the capabilities. How would you do this? There is an instruction in the courses transfer project folder, and let me just briefly get into that as well. So here, courses, transfer project, transfer markdown, and this basically describes what you need to do to move the project into your own namespace or into a dedicated namespace on gitlab.com. Okay. So again, if you want to do this, have any questions, I would suggest that you follow this instructions and yeah, try it. Otherwise, if that doesn't work for you, feel free to reach out to me on this particular email. And with that being said, let's hop into the conclusion. Oops, sorry. So what's next? Obviously, we want to deliver statistics as well, because now we have all the information about your project management in GitLab. So the next step would obviously be that you want to also derive some analytics from that. We have a couple of different analytic tools integrated in GitLab. There are contributor analytics to understand who wrote how many lines of code. There's analytics on the CI/CD, on the repositories, and there are recently additions to the metrics, which is the value stream analytics and the DORA metrics. DORA is short for, let me go to the next slide, DevOps Research and Assessment. So that measures 4 metrics. That's why they're called DORA 4. The deployment frequency, the lead time for change, the change failure rate, and the time to restore service. The deployment frequency and the lead time for change basically measure how efficient a team can work, and the change failure rate and the time to restore a service measures how reliable the code is the team generates and the infrastructure the team operates is. We are able to measure those both on project level. So if you give us the information about incidents, like there's an API for that on GitLab to also use GitLab for understanding that there is an alert, that there is an incident in your production systems. we are able to give you the metrics for that and to derive those DORA 4 metrics and show it to you for your project, but also aggregate it into the group hierarchy so you can see the performance of the team, the performance of a whole department, the performance of the whole company through these 4 metrics. The value stream dashboard, value stream analytics dashboard is then also aggregating those information. So it shows you the 4 DORA metrics along with some other metrics we can derive from the issues from the whole software development lifecycle and give you the overview over the last 3 months and like the trend lines over the past 6 months. So you can also see that the performance is improving and the reliability is improving, or maybe the reliability is declining. So you might need to change your approach if, I don't know, a team produces code which has too many bugs. Maybe we should take some more time for proper code review or using AI for code review. So with these metrics, you can also see the outcome of changes you do in how you work, whether you introduce AI, for example, or you change team compositions. All of that can change the metrics of the team, and the tools we provide give you like a good overview in which direction the team is trending. And with that, we still have some time left for some more Q&A. So if you want to ask some more questions, I see we have some. Actually, Mariana, did we answer all the questions that came in during the session?
Yeah, we just have a couple of new questions here that just arrived like in this minute. So you're gonna answer them directly here.
Yeah. So there's one question, and I apologize. I won't try to pronounce your name because I will fail. So you're using Jira to lab migration tool, which we provide. So it's important to say that those tools provided by professional service, they are obviously available, but they might not come with explicit support from GitLab. So that is something, if you are in a POC, I would assume that you might have a GitLab account team that is available to you. They would surely be helping you with this. But usually those tools do not come with implicit support from our side. Okay, and I see Mariana is also answering this directly in the chat.
Yeah, I'm just gonna dismiss considering your good answer. So
Good. Okay, doke. Then if there are no further questions, thanks everyone for attending. I think we have a thank you slide here as well. So yeah, thank you everyone for attending, and we'll make you the recording available. Remember that you have 2 more days, so if you want to try other things out, which GitLab Ultimate provides you,